All right, everyone, night two of the Chicago riots, and at this point, any semblance that it has anything to do with a grievance against the cops or political stress or something has been completely thrown out the window. When you look at what's happening now in Chicago, it's so bad that even Lori Lightfoot, the mayor of Chicago, she's a big-time, like, Antifa's great, BLM's great, big-time fucking far leftist, so bloated with shit that her head is expanded. Trust me, it's not because of her brain being big. Quite the opposite. I think something else is filling in up there in lieu of that space being filled by cranial matter of a normal type. Even she, her presser the other day, had to come out and say that what was happening in Chicago was problematic. She glossed it over. She tried to put lipstick on a pig without using the term violent miscreant thug assholes. But even she couldn't really defend the behavior. Now, you have vehicular battering rams of peace going on in Chicago. The first night it was mainly like, smash and grab stuff. Now it's a little bit more than a smash and grab, because in the second night, it literally, links in the description there, one to Andy No and another to Cisco Cotto on Twitter, actually, with some of these materials. The mob apparently at one point, I don't know if the car was stolen, because why would you, ram your own car through a window? It doesn't make sense. And they broke down like a protective glass on a storefront in order to loot one building. We're talking hundreds of shops at this point have been basically completely destroyed, and this is during a recession, during a pandemic. These people are not social distancing, and it's basically this is approaching LA riot levels. I guess the feds are going to get involved now. The sooner the better, because otherwise Chicago will go the way of Detroit. No city is so important that it can't be debilitated by the perception of the population, like the middle and upper middle class population that foots the bill for everything that the lower classes do get. No city can necessarily count on surviving night after night of violent riots. Like, I guarantee, at this point, at least some hundreds or thousands of people have already put up their homes for sale in the Portland and Seattle areas. And Minneapolis, I suppose, as well. Probably Atlanta. And people are getting back to the countryside. I just hope that they leave their big city politics in the big city where they belong, and in a trash heap where they belong, as opposed to bringing them to small town America. Because when they get there and they realize a person, sometimes they're carrying a firearm and they don't have a badge on, it'll be very surprising to them. Then they'll get their tax bill and they'll grin gleefully. Maybe they'll become Republicans or something, but probably not. It's like, I guess in Texas, people are worried about Californians bringing California politics to Texas. Well, they're mostly just in Austin, aren't they? So it's not a huge problem yet, but it will be in the future, potentially. Meanwhile, New England is being overrun by people who are on the right. Maine now looking like a swing state. It's very interesting. Vermont, because Bernie got fucked twice, maybe Vermont will become a swing state in my lifetime. Oh, I would love that. I would love it if the state started looking more like Rutland and less like Burlington. I think that it would be a great thing for our state. Don't worry, just don't have a bunch of coal power plants and nobody will care. But, I mean, when you get to the point where people are in large groups, in an organized, brazen fashion, this isn't just flash mobs, this is organized style behavior. When a group of people gets around, gathered around a store, and another person comes in ramming through the glass with their vehicle, or probably with a stolen vehicle, let's face it, that beckons the question. How did the organization occur? What central group or individual or idea is responsible for this? It's a collective rage that's built on multiple platforms. One, which is at this point very minor, is police brutality. Most of these people don't know who George Floyd is. It happened in a totally different city. There's no legitimate grievance against the Chicago police based on what happened a while ago, a couple months ago in Minneapolis. At this point now we know that George Floyd legitimately was not actually murdered. We're looking at possibly manslaughter or negligence or something in the arresting officers, because he's not going to get murder too. He's not going to get found guilty of murder too when the dude died of an overdose. It's negligent. He shouldn't have been kneeling on his neck for several minutes once he fucking stopped breathing, but that's not the same thing as premeditated murder. It's not the same thing. The charge won't stick, I guarantee. When that comes in, and the lesser charge at most is what he gets, there will be another wave of riots. So thank you, Keith Ellison, for laying the groundwork to let these people down, probably with an eye to causing a second wave of violence before the election that you can try to claim is Trump's fault somehow. I wish that Trump was able to respond in a better manner. The problem is, of course, he gets called Hitler if he does so. which of course is a pile of stinking bullshit, but you know, that's the way it gets cast off by the corporate media. Oh, Trump's thugs, Trump's KGB Gestapo agents came in and attacked peaceful protesters. Remember in D.C.? Bunch of people getting together, lighting fires, throwing bricks, and making threats and shit like that, and the Secret Service pushes him back away from the fucking White House. Oh my god, they weren't doing anything wrong, they were gassing us. And of course none of that actually happened. Smoke bombs were deployed, not tear gas. And of course, but if you looked at the legacy media reporting for the first couple of days, you wouldn't have known that. Now, thankfully, the public at this point, I think, is waking up a little bit. There's a reason why a Trump-style response, I think, subconsciously is gaining more momentum in the minds of people. And the reason why I judge this to be the case is when I look at gun sales. When I consider the fact that how many millions of Americans over the last 2 months have become first-time gun owners, it's probably like 2-3% of the fucking United States population. And that's not an exaggeration. That's an enormous number of people. That's bigger than most militaries in the world. And probably better trained. Better trained than... There's some militaries out there that basically are still fighting with you know, last century weapons. U.S. population has all sorts of cool toys. You can buy a flamethrower if you want. By the way, don't get the Boring Company flamethrower. It is weak compared to several cheaper commercial alternatives. I think both of which are from Russia, if I remember correctly. Get a Russian flamethrower. I know I want one. It's not good for home defense, though. Unless you also have several fire extinguishers. Like, you can burn the enemy, but then you have to put them out, and it's just, you know, it's going to smell up your house. I wouldn't recommend it. I would take Biden's advice maybe and invest in a shotgun if that's what you need. But it's probably good for hunting because you can kill the animal while cooking it. Just think of that. It'd be interesting if someone tried it. He'd probably make it work if he really tried hard enough, but I don't know that it'd be worth the effort. But no, when people are starting to not just throw a brick through a shop window, but ram through the shop window with their car because the glass is protective, that's more organized. It's also significantly more concerning, and it should be. Even the mayor of Chicago, again, this is a longtime Dem, far leftist, urbanite, anti-gunner, and part of the thing is she's like, well, this wouldn't happen if there were fewer guns in Chicago, which is a pile of steaming bullshit. These people, there's plenty of shootings in Chicago, most of which involve guns from outside of Illinois because Illinois has stupid gun laws. Doesn't bother criminals. They'll get their guns from Canada if the U.S. gets too much gun control. That's not an exaggeration either at this point. No, but even when she's calling it out, finally so. We finally have a Democratic politician. There's one thing I can give her credit for that's willing to at least acknowledge there is a problem in their constituency. That's more than Whitmer's doing, Northam's doing. That's more than Newsom is doing. That's more than the DNC certainly is doing. It's funny when Lori Lightfoot, the mayor of Chicago, sounds like she's got a little bit of common sense compared to the rest of the circus of goofballs here. There's a fucking problem with the Democrats at large. And the fact is that most of it at this point in Chicago doesn't appear to even be politically motivated. This is just rioting. People are just looting because they want free shit and rioting for rioting's sake. And order needs to be, at this point, I think, restored. By the way, that will elicit shrieks of bootlicker from all of the far leftists. Yes, we do not want communists to be able to victimize private citizens, burning small businesses to the ground, stealing and assaulting people. Yes, definitely bootlicking at that point. Well, I wouldn't have any problem with vigilantism if it were allowed by the blue states, if people were able to stand their ground, Castle Doctrine, and they were defending themselves lawfully like Ken and Karen did. That would be fine with me too. No, you don't need feds at that point. Because the rioters are completely, at that point, they're completely nutted. They're neutered. These morons are not going to go up to a heavily armed person and abuse them. But the thing is, most people there aren't heavily armed unless they're criminals because of the onerous anti-gun legislation. That's why these rioters are running wild. So in cities, yeah, unfortunately, you need beefier police forces because you've got dumbass politicians that want their citizens to be disarmed because they're not like their citizens. They're richer and they live in a gated community. They've got guards to defend them. They don't need even their own firearm. And if they want one, they can get one Feinstein style. She carries, she's got armed guards around her, but she doesn't want you to be able to carry because she's scared of you. Because unlike her, you don't own a vineyard. You don't drive a limousine. That's why they have a problem with you. They fucking hate the poor. And the poor, of course, are doing their bidding at the moment by helping cause political problems in the United States. That's about all. Peace out.